Are you ready for the next part? I am beyond excited and thrilled to invite our next speaker, Mitch Durfee. He's an entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author. So please help me welcome to the stage, Mitch Durfee.
You know it. Wow, wow, wow. What's up, millionaires? Woo! Man, I can remember a few years ago when I first attended my own goal achievement training. And the presenter stood up there and he said there was 3 things that you need to do in order for you to achieve your goals. Do you want to know what those 3 things are? Yeah. Come on, do you want to know what those 3 things are? Yeah. Yes! Awesome. He said, number 1, you're 43% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. You might want to write that down. I'll say it again. He said you're 43% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. Then he said you're even more likely to achieve your goals if you review them daily. And last, he said you're 80% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down, review them daily, and you carry them with you all the time. Now, when he said that, my first thought was 3 strikes and I'm out. And that's okay if you don't write your goals down right now, review them daily, or carry them with you, because it's about progress and not perfection. You can start today. And then as he finished that presentation, he began to walk around the room, walking up to people and asking them what their goals were. And I remember how nervous I was sitting there, thinking, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. And then he stopped. He looked me right in the eyes. I took a deep breath because I knew what was coming next. And he asked me, what's your goal? And without skipping a beat, I said, I want to become an author. And I knew what everyone was thinking in the room because I was thinking the same thing. Are you kidding me, Mitch? An author? You could have picked anything. And here's something you guys probably already know about me. When I was in high school, I was a straight A student, and I went on to, wait, no, hold on. That's not right. No, let me back up. When I was in high school, I almost failed. In fact, actually, my junior year of English, I did fail. And anyone that's ever failed at something knows how painful that is, especially when you have 20 or 30 of your friends that know about it. It was so difficult for me that when I went on to college, I had 3 classes left, and I don't remember what all 3 of them were, but 2 of them I do remember. One was journalism, and the other was creative writing. So instead of just taking the classes, I dropped out. In fact, I went almost 10 years before I even thought about reading another book. And it wasn't until my second deployment, when I was in Afghanistan, that the thought even crossed my mind. And it was because when I was in Afghanistan, it's a lot like how I would imagine prison would be. Not because of the 3 hots and a cot, and what that means is 3 hot meals and a place to sleep, but more because I made a decision that put me into a situation that I couldn't change no matter what I did. I just had to wait for the clock to expire. Now, how many of you have ever been to prison? Wait, don't answer that. How many of you have ever felt like you're in your own personal prison? Where maybe you're in a relationship, a business, your fitness goals, or you've done something in the past that put you into a situation where you're just waiting for the time. You're incubating. Let me paint the scene a little bit more for what Afghanistan looked like. Every single day, we would wake up and we would walk 30 minutes just to get that meal. And then from there, we would walk another 30 minutes to where we worked. And if we wanted to save a few minutes in the day, we could cut home without eating dinner, and that would take another 30 minutes. And when I say home, I actually don't mean home. What I mean is a giant warehouse where 300 guys are sleeping. And when I say 300 guys are sleeping, I'm talking about bunk beds, row by row by row. By the way, who here loves bunk beds? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah? Yeah, bunk beds are cool when you're 8, but not when you're 28. And the lights never turned on in this warehouse unless there was an emergency. So you literally, at the end of your day, would go back to this room where you would sit there in this little bunk bed, and if you wanted any kind of privacy, it meant you had to stuff a bed sheet into the mattress above you. And if you were on the top bunk, man, I felt bad for you. Poor guy, that poor guy. But that meant you had to put these little tent poles up and tie a string between the two of them and hang a blanket over. Not only that, you were climbing up and down throughout the night to do anything for a year straight. And one night, when I got home from working my 12-hour shift, my bunkmate was there, and he suggested, we were talking about the things that we wanted to do after we got out. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to, help other veterans after they transitioned. And I wanted to buy real estate. And when I told him all these things, he suggested that I read a book. And I didn't have the courage to tell him about how I went 10 years without reading a book. And I definitely didn't tell him about how I failed English in high school. But he reached up to his bed and he grabbed a book called Think and Grow Rich and he handed it to me. Now, how many of you have ever read Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, wow. It's a very powerful book. I took that book and I put it in my little personal space, my little area, my 2-foot cell. And it sat there for a couple weeks. And after a couple weeks, he asked me what I thought of the book. And I did not want to lie to him. So I told him the whole story. I told him how I failed English, how I dropped out of college, how I haven't read a book in over 10 years, and that books just were not for me. And then he said, it's not going to kill you. There's other things here that may, but this book will not kill you. And he was right. So he asked me just to read one chapter. So I reluctantly agreed to read one chapter. And the next day, when I finished our 12-hour shift, I skipped dinner, I went right home to save my 30 minutes, and I pulled out the book, and I turned on my little 3 LED light, and I opened the book, and I began to read. And after I finished that chapter, I could not believe how much I missed out on for the last 10 years. I carried that book with me everywhere. I carried it through the combat obstacle course to get to Chow. That's every day we had to walk through this in Afghanistan. I carried it to the pool. That's the pool that we walk through every day. And I carried it to work. And when everyone else was taking a 15-minute break, I would read that book. And then one day, I finished the book, and I was sitting there, and I was between two toolboxes. And when I finished the book, I closed it, and it was like a scene from a movie. Everything was in slow motion. The people to my left were drinking coffee, they were having a conversation, but I couldn't hear them. And the people over here were still working, but it didn't matter. And as I sat there, thinking about all the weight that was off my shoulders for finishing this book and how I could not believe that I went so long without reading, my project manager walked up to me, and he stood right in front of me, and he handed me a stack of mail. And in that stack of mail, I stood up and I put the letters over here, and there was a catalog. And it was this company, Mantech. And I read through the company. I was flipping the pages, and there was this table inside this magazine where these 12 people were sitting around with the biggest smiles. And I'm thinking to myself, what could these guys be so happy about? So I read the articles below, and it has each one of their names lined up. And right next to it, it has their salary, their stock options, their bonuses, $5 million, $2 million, $3 million. These guys were making between $5 and $12 million a year. Yeah, that's a lot of money, right? And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is the difference between these guys and me? I looked down at what I'm wearing. I wasn't in a suit. That's pretty much what I wore. A jacket and pants and some wet boots. And thought to myself, what do these guys eat for dinner? There's no way they're doing the combat obstacle course to eat 3-day-old cold chicken. And when they go home at the end of the night, there's no freaking way they're sleeping in a warehouse with 300 dudes on a bunk beds. And that's when I made the decision that I would read a book every single week until I started my own company. And after a few years, I started my own business, and I continued to read. And I took the things and the skills that I learned from these books, and I put them into my business, and I grew my company into 4 states. And then I got really good at taking businesses to that $1 million range. So I started coaching other businesses because of the knowledge that I received from these books. And that's why when that presenter walked up to me and asked me what it is that I want to do, I had no doubt in my heart what it was that I could do to give back. So I took all the skills that I learned from my business and from my life, and I put them into the book. I never had the opportunity to interview Napoleon Hill, but he took that time to put it inside a book. And I knew that he took his best information and put it into that book. And I knew that I was being selfish by just taking their information for myself. So I compiled all that information, and I knew that one day I would become an author. So then I thought back to what that presenter said. You have to write your goals down, you have to review them daily, and you have to carry them with you. And I wasn't doing that. So as I got home that night, I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm getting ready for bed, and this thought's replaying in my head. Write it down, review it daily, carry it with you. So I go downstairs to my desk, I open my desk out, and I grab a marker, I go back upstairs, and I write on my mirror, I will become an author by July 2017. Has anyone ever wrote their goals down on a mirror? Or is that just me? Amazing. Guys, good job. I thought it was just me. I took out my phone and I took a picture of it. So that way my goals were always with me. Now, RAITIS went over earlier about writing your goals down. Did all of you guys do that? You guys did? Well, I'd like to encourage you guys to go ahead and take a second to just take a picture of those. So that way there's no excuse for you to not have your goals with you. Whether or not you review them daily, at least you will have your goals with you. And every morning when I woke up and I'd hit my alarm, I'd swipe right past my goals, and they were staring me right in the face. So I had no excuse not to say, oh, I forgot about that goal. It was always right there. And after a couple weeks of staring at my goal, I realized I should probably do something about this besides just look at them. But I got stuck on how to become an author, right? Like, I failed English, dropped out of college, went 10 years without reading a book. How am I going to become an author? A little self-doubt, right? Sometimes those conversations get in our heads, right? Where we start thinking like, who am I to become an author? And it was tough. So I decided to join a mastermind. And when I got to the mastermind, I was sitting in the hot seat, and they were asking me about my goals. All right? A lot of us have goals, right? Raise your hand if you have goals. A lot of you know when you want to achieve those goals, right? And you know why that goal is important to you. But have you ever got stuck on how? It's tough, right? If you knew exactly how to achieve your goals, would you do it? Well, when I was in that mastermind group, I cannot remember who said it, and I wish I could. For the last few days, I was thinking about it, but I cannot remember who said it. But he told me, Mitch, stop focusing on how and start focusing on who. Who can help you achieve these goals? Right? In this world, there's a lot of authors out there. Maybe you have a goal of losing weight. There's a lot of people out there that have already lost weight. Maybe you have a goal of growing your business. There are a lot of business people out there that have grown a business. And that's when I discovered what I call the organizational chart to your goals. And it's really simple. You don't have to know the name of the person. You just have to think of the description of what that person is. Now, for myself, being an author, I knew that I needed to find an author. I know that I definitely needed a graphic designer to do the cover. I definitely knew I needed an editor and formatter. A really good one. And I needed a marketing team to make sure that people were able to get their hands on this book. So after I had my who could help me, then I could start focusing on the next step, which was writing the book. But before I do that, I want you guys to just take a quick second to partner up and share your goals with each other and write down the description of what that person looks like. No, not are they attractive, but what their actual job is, like what they do. So go ahead and do that right now. Just take 1 to 2 minutes and just share your goals with each other and what those, just list out 3 people. If you could just come up with 3 people that can help you achieve your goals. All right. Does anyone want to share what they came up with? You want to raise your hand if you want to share what you came up with? Awesome. We got one up here, Christian. Do you want to share? It's okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right, guys. Guys, hold on a second. Do you want to stand up, please? Awesome. All right, so who can help you? First of all, what's your name? Where are you from? And what's your goal?
I'll just give it.
Guys, please. Thank you so much.
I'm Susanna.
Hi, Susanna.
I am from Crockett and San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice.
My goal is that I will make at least $1 million in investment and rental income by February 16, 2020.
Wow. Wow.
And the people that I would need, or the roles that I would need in this, is a mentor to start with. Also, a coach or somebody who's actually achieved this or done that. And I think the third person would be friends and colleagues who has done it, and find out what their pitfalls were and what their lessons were in this.
So your goal was to get $1 million in annual income through rentals?
Yes,
Wow.
in investments and rental income.
That's
Right.
amazing. Good job.
Thank you.
For sharing. Yeah. Is there anyone else that wants to share what their goals are? Who can help them achieve that? Come on, one more.
My name's Jasmine Esquera, and hi. And I am writing a book by my birthday, so by April 5th, 2019. And it's been percolating, and it's about women's empowerment. I'm a mother of 3 daughters, and was raised more or less by my mom and her 8 sisters, and by a matriarch. And as a result, we would also start a nonprofit that empowers women with a podcast called The Well-Made Podcast. Women encouraging love and leadership, mothers and daughters empowered. So there'll be a well-made podcast, well-made marketplace, well-made conference, well-made retreat, and chapters around the world. So made in Japan, made in China, made in the Philippines, made, remade. And I'm excited about that. The help that I would have is our family already has 2 nonprofits. But what I'm looking for is just places where I can speak, where I can empower more women, help with a podcast. I'm sharing who I'm already working with, or
Just 3 people that could help you achieve your goals. So someone that maybe has an event space.
yeah. I'm looking for people who already have a strong network. I'm looking for women encouraging love and leadership to speak on the podcast, who already have an international and global appeal and following, specifically female authors, and who have not just a book, but also have a program that is supportive and in place. And I'm also looking for people who know how to create good logo wear.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Now, is there anyone else? Anyone else at all? I know, like I said, I've been in that position where I was nervous and I didn't want to share. So I don't want to call you out, but if there's a situation right now where you feel that power and you want to step up and you want to do it, is there anyone? Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll pull it out of you.
I actually wanted to share earlier, but I decided not to.
Yes.
So this was like, damn it, okay. So this is something it's like that feeling of failure. I feel like I've said I'm gonna do something and I haven't done it, and it's record and release, wow, that changed. Record and release my EP. And the people that can help me is, one, my producer. He can just help me with studio time, and the second is I need help with brand logo as well, just like to create. I am terrible at those things. So if you know anybody who is good at brand logos or is good at creating stuff like that, I need help with that. And then finding musicians. I currently don't have musicians for a live band, so that's been challenging to get gigs and stuff like that. So if you know any artists in the Bay Area, specifically more the East Bay, I would love help with that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, just one more. We'll do one more, Christian.
It's just a quick comment. Guys, if you have logos and stuff, you go to Fiverr for $5. Somebody
Thank you.
will write a logo and stuff for you.
Yeah.
I haven't used this service, but a lot of my friends have. 99 Designs.
Fiverr, 99 Designs, Freelancer, Upwork. There's a few different ones that you can kind of get those remote. Yeah, or are incredibly talented. Awesome. So after I had the team and I wrote all those positions out, well, the next thing was I had to write the book. And a lot of people ask me, how did you write the book, Mitch? And to be honest, it was kind of easy. I just sat down, I blocked out time every Thursday from 12 to 1 before my mastermind group, and I would just do this. Every Thursday. And I'd turn the page and do it again. So if you want to write a book, it just comes down to just doing it. Just take the time to do it. And then as I got about 80% done, I was really close to finishing this book. I got to a point where I had plenty of time to achieve this goal, so I stopped writing on Thursdays. One Thursday went by. Maybe I'd write a paragraph for about 10 minutes. And then the next Thursday would come by and I'd stop writing. And my mastermind group asked me how my book was coming, because that's what they do. They hold you accountable. They make sure that your goals are your priorities are priorities. Your most important thing is the most important thing. And I remember when Jay Cummings said to me, Mitch, how many books have you read over the last few years? And I told him, I've read a book every single week since I left Afghanistan. And he goes, how many of those books were 80% done? And right then I knew that I had to finish the book. So I kept going, and when I finished it, I sent it off to the editor and formatter. I had the cover design done, and June 30th, I got the first copy of my book. And boy, that was powerful. I read that book cover to cover. And as soon as I finished, I decided that I would set my next goal, which would be to become a best-selling author. Because what kid doesn't fail English, drop out of college, and become a best-selling author? And I knew it would be a big challenge. And I knew that I could not do it alone. I knew that the teams that I put in place to run my company, and the teams that I had to get this book created, wasn't going to be enough. I still needed to be able to get other people to help me. And on launch day, July 17th, 2017, we sent out 16,000 emails, made 300 phone calls, countless text messages, Facebook Live every hour, podcast, we did everything. Everything. And after about 11 hours, we hit number 2. This close. Now, how many of you have ever set a goal? Maybe it was to, maybe it was to lose 20 pounds, and you got to 18, and you said, you know what? It's good enough. Close enough, right? Or you set a goal to do $100,000 in sales this month, and you got to 95, and you said, man, that was a good month. Close enough. Or maybe it was to run a marathon, and you made it all the way to the 25th mile, and you were that close, and you said, man, it's good enough. Because it's hard to push that little extra, right? That one extra push-up, that one extra minute on the treadmill, that one extra sales call. That's tough sometimes. And even though you have your own goal, your own why, your deadline, sometimes that's not enough. And luckily for me, after my marketing team went home for the night, a friend from the Marines came up to pick up their book, and she stopped in, and I gave it to her, and she was asking me about all the things that I did through the day in order to get to this number 2 position, just like any good coach does. Now, how many of you have coaches right now? Awesome, so you guys know what I'm talking about. How many of you had coaches in the past? Right. So a coach's job isn't to tell you exactly what to do, right? The coach's job is to steer you and ask the questions and figure out where you're at on your journey and ask other questions that'll help you get to that final mile. And I remember when she asked me about all the things that I did, I'm like, I've done everything. There's nothing else I can do. And she goes, Mitch, look, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just asking you if there was something else you could do, just one thing, what would it be? And of course, me being in the great state of denial, I've done everything. My teams have sent out 16,000 emails, 300 phone calls. We texted everyone. I called people I haven't talked to in years. I've done everything. And she goes, Mitch, just think about it for a second. If there was one thing you could do, what would it be? And I said, well, I guess I could probably send out another email or something, and I guess I could go Facebook Live one more time, or I guess maybe text a few more people. And she goes, so do it. So I call up my marketing team about 8 o'clock at night, and I tell them to hit the list one more time. And they tell me, Mitch, don't do it. We're going to lose all these subscribers. We're going to lose all of these people that, we've worked so hard, right? My team worked really hard to build that list in the past, so they didn't want to do it. And then I shared my story with them. I'm like, look, we got to do this. Like, we're this close, guys. We can do this. Like, wouldn't you be so proud to be a part of this and say, like, we did everything we possibly could. And if we hit the list one more time, I won't ask you for anything else. So we hit the list. And then I jumped on Facebook Live one more time. And I asked my audience about the same situation. If you've ever failed at something, if you've ever been in a situation where you were afraid to take one more step because you failed in the past and it was hard for you in the past, and you just needed a little encouragement to let you know that you could actually do it. And I said, if your heart desires it, that should be enough validation for you to know that you can achieve it. And if you believe this, just tag 2 people. Tell them that you believe in them. And just share this post with them. And then next thing I know, notifications are popping up like crazy. 45 minutes later, actually, I'm going to show you guys the video if that's okay, or what happened next. So let's see if we can do this here. Perfect. All right, so this is what happened next. I don't know how the audio is here. We'll see if it's... We'll play it off this one.
We did it! We did it! Oh my God! Look at this! #1 bestseller in business. I can't even begin to tell you guys how excited I am. We did it!
Best-selling author! And this is my book next to Think and Grow Rich in Barnes & Noble. So, I've got an opportunity for you. If you've ever felt like, you knew what you wanted to do, you just needed a team to help you with that. In the back of the room, I put out copies of my second #1 best-selling book. And there isn't enough for everyone, but there are some back there. And this is for anyone here. If you're interested, go back there and grab a free copy of my book, and there's a sign-up sheet next to it, and you can get a free 30-minute consultation with me. Like I said, there isn't enough for everyone, so if you're interested, go ahead and go to the back of the room right now and grab a copy of that book. And real quick, I just want to introduce you to someone else. John, can you come up here real quick? Yeah, John, yeah. Don't you make me cry. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jon Peterson.
Hey John, what's up? Hi.
And Jon Peterson was the guy that was on the top bunk in Afghanistan with me. And without you, this wouldn't have been possible, man. Thank you, man. Thank you, guys. Is there anything you want to say? Can we get him a mic?
Check.
Awesome.
Hey, I just want to reiterate on the team thing and how important a team is to you. And I want you guys to kind of think about perspective for a second, because I know every time I hear that. Let me back up really quick. Has anybody ever seen that video of the army guys that are scaling the wall, and then they push the one guy up, and then they push the other guy up, and then they grab the guy and pull him up, and then they grab the other guy and pull him up? Has anybody ever seen that? Everybody pretty much has almost seen that, right? Every time I think about building a team and working with a team and getting brought up to the next level, I always think that I'm the guy being pushed up first. And I want everybody to take that and think, well, maybe I'm not the guy that's getting pushed up first, and I'm the guy pushing somebody else up. And that's exactly what happened with me and Mitch, is I was able to push him up, and now he's pulling me up over the wall. So, thank you.
I love you, man. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. And thank you guys all for coming here tonight. Like I said, this event is huge for me. RAITIS does an incredible job. If you guys have ever questioned whether or not a mastermind group or a team is something that can help you, I'm telling you, RAITIS' mastermind group, I've been a part of it, and it's so powerful. And lastly, I just want you all to know that if your heart is telling you to do something, I don't care if you failed in the past, that is enough validation for you to achieve it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.